Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License Flight number 26 with service to Los Angeles, California, aka high school. We ask that you please fasten your headphones at this time, secure your podcasting device, and remember that if your belly button is showing, please make sure to press your call button, and our in-flight dad will make sure to come by and tell you that you are in fact a streetwalker, while simultaneously trying to destroy your confidence.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by, in the same screen, Max Singer and Rich Inman. It's almost like they live in the same town. How are you boys doing today?
Yeah, this is the first time Max and I have ever met, actually, so that's super cool, very awkward.
Well, you guys are doing great. You're already sharing, for those who are watching our podcast, as opposed to those who are listening, they're sharing a pair of headphones, like two high school sweethearts. And
yeah, just hanging out in the back of the bus.
Yeah. I made you a mixtape, Max.
On your iPod Classic, trying to scroll through that wheel.
Oh God, what are you listening to in the back of the bus in high school? Like you're 15, 16 years old. You're on your way to school. What are you listening to? What's on your iPod Color right now?
All right, so on my iPod Color is 100% the Californication album by the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Wow.
And I'm grooving to that.
Also,
bold
of you to admit that in public.
In high school, big stand-up comedy guy. Like if I got a gift card.
Oh, are you about to drop Dane Cook?
No, I'm not. I'm gonna drop something even worse. Ray Romano's stand-up album was actually really, really well done. And then before he was canceled, Louis C.K. also had some banger stand-up albums that I did have on my iPod.
A 15-year-old listening to Ray Romano stand up on his way to school explains more about you than anything I could have imagined.
Yeah, were you born 40? What's going on here?
For those who were listening, I was raised in Boca Raton, Florida, so I've instantly been aged by 20 years, no matter what age I am. So I'm chilling out at like 55 right now. But for those who are listening, this week we are talking about the secret life of an American teenager. And for those who might be joining the podcast for the first time, Max, tell them a little bit about what we do here.
Totally. So here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of television's most famous, or in some cases, infamous pilot episodes. We figure out how these shows came to be and were originally greenlit, if they're successful pilots and making us want to watch more, and if they could be made today. We've got a whole bank of episodes now wherever you get your podcasts, so go back and find us, listen to some shows you may already love, find a show you may never have seen before, and if it's your first time flying, then welcome aboard.
Yeah, and welcome to the Shailene Woodley fan cast.
Rich, what is your question of the week, speaking of Shailene Woodley?
Okay, so I'm more curious about one person's answer out of this question than the rest of us, because one person happened to grow up in the state of Florida. I would love to know what your experiences are with sex education in high school, because, woo man, is this bad all across the board in this show. And I've actually had people reach out to me saying, like, I got less of a sex education lesson in my own school than I got from this show, watching the show growing up.
Yeah. So speaking from Florida's perspective, I think that there were really only like sort of two instances. There was fifth grade, right? You get that everyone is blossoming into the greatest version of a flower that they can be speech. Then in eighth grade, you get not even the talk of like, oh, this is what happens, or this is how sex happens. It is, these are all the diseases that are associated with sex.
This is how sex happens. Someone buys the most expensive meal at Outback Steakhouse, and then
someone buys that the cowboy steak at Outback Steakhouse. That's when you know that's how sex happens. But I will say, like, I've heard worse, and for our friends who are from Indiana, I've heard that in certain places you only get like an hour talk in the middle of high school. So God bless you as far as you're going. So I feel like I was like not prepared the worst, but also by no means prepared. What about you two?
Connecticut was, I don't know, normal. We got a pretty good like sex education, and I just remember probably being in, I'm gonna say it was middle school. If you like got questions right in sex ed like health class, you got candy, and oh boy, I wanted that candy. That's not a euphemism. I was very easily persuaded to like study if you gave me like rewards for it. Again, not a euphemism.
This also tracks with our social standing in both high school and college and how we all met. Mine in particular in Chicago public school was surprisingly good. And, bear in mind, we did have a couple high school pregnancies. It wasn't really that like wild, I would say. I think someone got pregnant like near the tail end of their senior year, if I remember correctly. But ours was actually non-gendered, so they did not split up the boys and girls for sex ed, which I thought was incredibly important, really, because that's how you end up finding out how men are 35 years old and don't know how tampons work and shit like that. So I think they actually did a pretty decent job. It was also Chicago public school, so there is an era of like, fuck you, you're learning this, and stop asking questions.
That's the official motto of CPS. Fuck you, you learning.
A perfect Chicago accent.
Go Bears. All right. Well, Rich, thanks for that enlightening question of the week. But as we are here to talk about the secret life of an American teenager, let's talk a little bit about the synopsis. 15-year-old Amy ends up pregnant after one night at band camp, throwing her whole life upside down. It doesn't help that she's now going to school with that guy. Nice and simple, but Max...
Very, very, very short, very only one person focused.
Yeah, and nothing like this pilot. Although... Max, I'd love to hear a little bit on how this was made.
Totally. And I'm going to give just a quick disclaimer of how we came to even pick this show in the first place.
Please explain
Max,
yourself.
You owe us an apology.
Yeah, so this is my bad this week. I was told that I should watch the show and we should do the show for the podcast because three of its leads are Shailene Woodley, Molly Ringwald, and Steve Sciarippa of Sopranos fame. And that's true, except only two of these people are in the pilot. And I thought that I was going to like shoehorn in Sopranos talk today. Oops. And make that work, getting to talk about, Steve Sciarippa, Bobby from the Sopranos.
Our Sopranos episode better be fucking good. We have teased it so much.
That's on me. So we're not going to talk about the Sopranos. We're not going to talk about Steve Sciarippa, Bobby Bacala. Instead, we're going to talk about a writer by the name of Brenda Hampton.
Just keep in mind, folks, Max could have said, let's do the Sopranos, and Rich and I would have been like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's
Instead,
about time.
Max wants to build up so much anticipation for the concept of us doing the Sopranos that he wants to basically, or like, sabotage us into doing a Sopranos
We're going to do every bad show that co-stars someone from the Sopranos before we finally get to the Sopranos. It's going to be the 100th episode spectacular. We got a long way to go. So anyways, we're talking about a woman by the name of Brenda Hampton today. Hampton begins her career in writing in a different type of way. She's actually a technical writer for the U.S. Navy. She does manuals and corporate newsletters for the Navy. And then she moves to Los Angeles in the late 1980s and gets her first TV writing gig in 1989 on the short-lived show Sister Kate. Sister Kate is it's a new show from the entire team behind Mr. Belvedere, a show which I only know from one very specific joke on Twitter.
And what's that joke, man?
Go on Twitter and search Mr. Belvedere. Anyways, Hampton goes on to write for shows like Baghdad Cafe, a short-lived sitcom starring Whoopi Goldberg, as well as shows like Lenny, Blossom, and Mad About You. After her time in the rooms on Blossom and Mad About You, she gets her first actual creator credit. She co-creates the sitcom for CBS called Daddy's Home in 1994 with David Landsberg. Great cast. Daddy's Home stars Dudley, or not Daddy's Home. That's that Mel Gibson, Will Ferrell movie.
Yeah, don't watch that.
It stars Dudley Moore, Harvey Fierstein, Alan Ruck, and it's the first lead role for a young Kerry Russell. Unfortunately, this show is just critically panned, and it gets put on hiatus after only 3 episodes. As of this recording, it's still on hiatus. If we get any news about Daddy's Girls, we'll let you know in future updates, listeners. Good for Brenda Hampton, though. She has slightly more success with her next show, a little series for WB called Seventh Heaven that she creates.
Wow.
So, Seventh Heaven runs for 11 seasons and 243 episodes, 240 more than Daddy's Girls.
Wow.
The show airs its...
So far.
The show, yeah, it's still on hiatus. Who knows? The show finale for Seventh Heaven airs on May 13th, 2007. And then just over 1 year later, we get to the pilot of The Secret Life of the American Teenager, titled Falling in Love, which airs on September 3rd, 2008. It's also worth noting this pilot episode is directed by a gentleman by the name of Ron Underwood. Underwood is responsible for movies such as Tremors, City Slickers, Mighty Joe Young, and The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
Yes.
And The Secret Life of the American Teenager.
Is this back-to-back Tremors references in our pod? Did we cover one last week? Am I crazy?
We did, but
damn,
you know what? What
a great movie.
I mean, it's definitely
It's
our first reference to City Slickers starring Billy Crystal. That's for sure.
Won't be the last.
More Billy Crystal talk. Well, Max, thanks for the rundown of the show, and let's just talk about this plot. And I'm gonna credit my wife Alex for this opening line. We open on a skirt over a pair of jeans being worn by Shailene Woodley, and her mom happens to be Molly Ringwald.
This is an ensemble show in the sense of the fashion ensembles we see.
And this isn't, like, just a spoiler alert, this isn't the last time Shailene Woodley is wearing a skirt over a pair of pants, and I was instantly taken back to 2008.
2008 was a weird time, man.
There are so many short sleeves over long sleeves, and like logs over shorts, and
we didn't give a fuck at the end of that second Bush term.
we really loved layering in like the early aughts. Like the idea of having like a collared shirt over a collared shirt just seemed really right. And Gen Z's bringing it back, and does part of me feel back at home? Sure. But is part of me disgusted and thinking we made so much progress and now they're ruining it? Also sure at the same time.
Well, we immediately get a very strange, very late Bush term reference immediately with Molly Ringwald jumping into some North Korea jokes, some Kim Jong-il references. I thought, one passed by and I was like, oh, that's a strange thing to put in a script, maybe in the very first scene of a show. And then, drops in another one. Really trying to drive home the whole, here's where our political climate was at this point.
Yeah. Do we think that everyone on this show was a Republican? Because I sort of just left the episode, as well as everyone who wrote it. I was just like, oh, yeah, no, they like. We'll talk about it in a bit.
This show airs on ABC Family. They show the 700 Club almost every night at 11 o'clock. Like,
yeah. Well, okay, so I haven't watched Seventh Heaven. Have either of you guys? I'm asking two Jews if they watched the Christian teen drama.
No. Can't say I have.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. So
tune in next week.
Yeah, we're doing the Christian trilogy.
This Molly Ringwald casting, though, to me is just such a like, hey, you liked her as a teen in the 80s, you'll like her as an adult now.
So
yeah.
this scene was just wild because it just gave me the idea that there's no concept of nuanced in this show, right? Everything is going to be super on the nose and like, oh, this is so clever, but it's not. Like Molly Ringwald's literally heating up pot roast for Shailene Woodley's character, who is doing a pregnancy test, and when the microwave hits
the microwave countdown,
the microwave countdown with the beeps, and then we're seeing Shailene Woodley literally
this week on 24
through, like the different moods, and then spoiler alert, positive pregnancy test.
Ron Underwood does some just bonkers directing choices in this scene, though. I love the POV from the point of the microwave as Molly Ringwald's heating up pot roast. Obviously, the timer countdown to Shailene's pregnancy test, But even the most egregious line that Molly Ringwald has in this entire scene is saying that I made pot roast your favorite. Listen, nobody's fucking favorite is pot roast. You eat pot roast.
It's 2008. We're in a recession.
No 15-year-old's favorite food is pot roast.
Especially, like, maybe if this show took place in, like, the Midwest and I vaguely wave over the map, like Ohio, but not, no one in LA, sorry, I'm making an assumption, is like, give me that pot roast, baby. I'm ready for it.
Microwave pot roast shit's gonna be dry.
Microwave pot roast. Oh, man. Yeah. Everything about the values of this show, you can tell immediately from how little flavor and seasoning they're
And if she's microwaving that pot roast as long as it takes for a pregnancy test to show whether or not it's positive or negative, that pot roast is basically beef jerky by the time that she is done with it. But after we get
nice and chewy.
Yeah, after we get this on the nose microwave countdown, we get our opening credits sung by Molly Ringwald singing Cole Porter's "Let's Fall in Love." After doing Night Court and that montage, I was left wanting something entirely different than this.
Oh, what? You didn't want a heavy-handed title card where there's literally birds and bees on the screen?
And like it was like that weird, like, I want to call it almost like montage art that like we all were familiar with sort of in high school. Like, it reminded me almost of MySpace and stuff like that, but it was just like, okay, I guess this was an opening credit of some sort. But then we're at the first day of school back from the summer.
Boy, are we, because we get fucking Avril Lavigne's girlfriend.
I wrote it all caps. Hey, you, I don't like your girlfriend. And then immediately in all caps with, like, periods to, like, designate where I would clap between these words. Dresses over jeans.
I just have OMG, Avril Lavigne, next line, more dresses over jeans is my
Yes, okay, glad we're on the same page here. Another heavy-handed Ron Underwood directing moment, though, when Grace, like the blonde Christian cheerleader, first enters the hallway, they cut to her on She's Like, So Whatever.
It's such a nonsense part of, like, I don't remember when Girlfriend came out, but I feel like this is old for this show. Like that's an old reference already in 2008.
Avril Lavigne is timeless to me. Like, all of her songs will live on forever in infamy. Like, I'll be in the old folks' home just rocking out to Skater Boy. But, like, even I agree, Rich. I was just like, we could have picked any other song. Now, this is not the worst song that they used for the show.
Yeah, dude.
No.
I have one for later.
No, I the only other song.
The only other song. Well, no, there is a great, like, fake hip hop song during the Christian, like, dance scene that was great. But, like, there's so much that happens in this scene of just like, where do you guys even want to start? I don't even know where. I have, the first note I have is, it's really gross, and I'm going to use this phrase because I know I'm going to sound like a hypocrite. Like, they instantly were like, oh, let's meet Amy's friends, and Madison and Lauren. And the way we're introduced to these two girls that are fairly conservative in their approaches, we'll talk about how that shines later, is they're like, oh, have you seen the hot new counselor, Mr. Molina? Who, like, how old do we meet Mr. Molina? And I was just like, oh, like, this is how we're, like, setting the tone of this show of, like...
He's probably supposed to be mid to late 20s, I would guess, that character.
Yeah, I'd say, like, the oldest is he's maybe in his 30s at most.
The high schoolers all look like they're 35. So, or, like, especially some of them. Like, some of the like, the football players look like they're 35. But, also immediately setting the tone of when he walks in saying that none of the students will call him Mr. Molina. They're all going to call him by his first name.
Oh,
I'm like,
Adrian's line where she's just like basically like, oh yeah, I'm going to have sex with you, but because I'm not going to call you by your name.
Yeah.
It's just...
Also, okay, so for anyone who's going to watch this at home, and I hope you all do, this show should be 21 minutes long. And they stretch it out to 45, I think. I think the real runtime is 45 minutes long. This first scene is very Disney Channel in the sense that it takes place in a dizzying spin in a 100-foot, like length hallway. There was like a moment 5 minutes into this pilot where I was like, I don't think they've left this hallway, and then they're like, they're still not leaving this hallway.
Yeah,
and
I mean, there's exposition, and then there's this show trying to introduce you to the entire goddamn yearbook before we even get out of this first scene. Like, there's so many people.
Yeah.
You get Grayson Jack, who's like the football, I guess, like the quarterback, and his Christian cheerleader girlfriend playing that trope. You get Adrian, who's like the firecracker, like the hot girl, and her boyfriend Ricky, who just grossly laments about his blue balls. I believe the line that he uses, "I'm hurting here the past 2 nights," which gross. You get Madison and Lauren, who are like Amy's like normie friends who just think the new counselor's hot, and then you get Ben, Harry, and Alice, who are just like some other kids hanging by a locker. And of course, Ben and Harry are just so horny because they're 15 and they have to lose their virginities ASAP. So they do the timeless teen trope of sex bet.
Yeah. I also like, this is probably, I won't bring this up again because this automatically made me feel weird, but they made the 2 Asian cast members seem like the most sexless and the most nerdy. Like, they seem like very wise, but very like, well, we're not going to deal with that. We're young kids. And then, kept them together the entire time.
Those were 2 of the oldest people in the cast. Like, Alan Evangelista, who plays Henry, was 26 at the time. And then...
Good God.
And then I believe the Alice
but he can play 15. That's the important part.
No, the one that's the funniest is Greg Finley, who plays Jack, who is now 38 years old, but if we do some easy math, he was 23 years old when he was filming this show. Like, the only people who were appropriately aged, in all honesty, were Shailene Woodley was 15 or 16 when she filmed this. And then the actor that played Ben was about 18 years old. So there are some people in this cast that look like they're very much in high school.
So on the topic of Amy and Ben, just really quick, what's more egregious? Amy's dress over jeans, or Ben wearing 2 cardigans over each other?
Hey, it's chilly in that school.
It's very cold in California in August/September. It's very traditionally
What
known.
the hell part of California is this? Like, it has to be, or like, extremely conservative, like Orange County. There's no way that California teenagers at this point in time are getting this shitty sex education.
The open air school courtyard is definitely like
extremely California.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way at any point in the school year in Chicago or in any part of the Midwest that you would actually go outside during the school year.
Do we also think it's intentional that the lead character's last name is Juergens, because that's what teenagers use a lot?
we get our first brand partner.
Oh my god. Not the only brand partnership in the show. We'll talk about that at the end. But during this whole thing, really to just drive the scene of like what's the important thing that we find is Amy lets Madison and Lauren know that she not only had sex, which they were like, there's no way you knew that you had sex, or are you sure? To like, oh, I think I'm pregnant. Which then brings us to this secret bathroom meeting that happens, where I think it was Lauren who set like a land speed record going to Walgreens to go and pick up 3 pregnancy tests.
Also, shout out Camille Winbush. We loved you in the Bernie Mac show. I was trying to place her face the entire time, and then I just looked her up on IMDb. And I love you a lot, Camille. Friend of the pod.
That talk about a great show in comparison to this one. What a fall from grace.
Oh no.
But any thoughts about this? Like 3 best friends just hanging out in a handicap stall when maybe someone needed that, who actually needed the space.
Oh no. Man, if you were wondering how do they get the privacy in this bathroom for their secret girls meeting?
Max has an all caps note here.
They could have just put some stuff behind the door to keep it closed. They could have just been inconspicuous. They could have even just put out of order on the door, put some caution tape. But no, Madison puts a giant sign in all caps that says "Out of order, Poop City," which I was really concerned that today's flight was going to be nonstop service to Poop City.
Wait, Wait, Jeff, can you re-record it?
I might have to.
we have to keep this moving, guys. We have to keep this moving.
We'll never get out of Poop City at this rate.
I do have just
forget it, Jake. It's Poop City. God damn it.
Just some notes that I had on that previous scene that I did want to just say is the piano background music in that scene was nuts. Like whoever they had accompanying it was like, it was wild. It was just such a great, like, if you want to be talking about on the nose, this piano player was just watching and like, I know exactly what I want to do.
All of the underscoring in this, the acting in this, everything is after school special. Everything is health class PSA. It is mind-boggling to me that in the run of this show, Shailene Woodley gets a Golden Globe nomination for a movie that won a Best Screenplay Oscar, because it's not good in this.
Yeah.
And clearly there's talent in this cast, but like, oh my god, this script is doing nobody any favors to think that like while this show is on the air, she's gonna have like The Descendants and
Dating Aaron Rodgers.
No, the movie with Miles Teller, Spectacular Now. Like she's gonna have such great performances side by side with this. And it's like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, I mean, there's also like going specifically to the music. It is very much like the person who did the captions for this was just like setting the copy paste keys on fire, putting upbeat guitar music. It is over and 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 over again.
And I apologize, I didn't mean to take the first exit out of Poop City. I want to get back to the plot.
Yeah, but two other things that happened as far as the plot. We find out who the father, or whom we assume is the father of Amy's baby, and it is Ricky Blueballs. And then also there's one line.
Oh, we did get to The Sopranos.
There is one line that I absolutely love, which is Alice says to Ben when Ben's talking about Amy, she's like, Amy is a person, not a horse, which just was written down as like okay, I don't think I have ever mentioned someone as horse-like, but
yeah, that's a surprising choice to make from someone who has nearly 2 decades of TV writing experience at this point.
Talking about having 2 decades of TV writing experience, I want to talk about the promise ring scene a little bit more,
boy.
And Grace's family's requirements, I will call them, for whom she dates, because I just have, in big capital letters, no Jews allowed, according to Grace and her family, because we talk about, like, throughout the show, and there's a lot of problematic things that happen in this pilot, as far as sex education and how we talk about teen pregnancy and all sorts of things and available resources. But one that just stood out to me is the idea of, they don't say what the other things of being a Christian are. They just say, they're just like, it's only Christian and only now. And as 3 Jews, I'd like to tell you, there are other things. It does get better outside of high school.
The promise ring thing was extremely of the moment. That is very like, I have to imagine that was like, it became popularized because of the Jonas Brothers. And surprise, now they all fuck. And not all of them are married. But yeah, I don't understand. It was like, I don't know what this was a response to. I don't know, like, at what point the Puritanism of Christianity was just like, well, let's have a visible symbol on all of our kids to make sure they don't have penetrative vaginal sex. Guess what else they're doing? Everything but.
Well, and you know, Jack basically pitches that here too. He's like, hold on. You're like, if we're not going to get married till after you complete undergrad and medical school, like, we could do other stuff, right? Like, he just puts that out there. This dude is wearing polos, just pounded milk, and trying to pitch any loophole to get a little from Grace possible.
I do have...
The phrase pounded milk is really upsetting.
I do have a thing in my notes that says, I need Grace and the students at BYU to talk about what is and what isn't sex, because are there some things that they could learn, and Jack would be pretty pumped.
Well, we talk about, like, you know, heavy-handedness in this scene. this might be the
Yeah,
most
are you
heavy-handed
talking about
directing
what I think
choice.
you're about
I
to
think
do?
so. So
Oh,
after
boy.
Grace gets up and leaves, Adrian the Temptress, played by Francia Risa, who in real life gave Selena Gomez her kidney, she sits down at the table and literally takes the bite out of the apple, literally
I
symbolizing the
know.
biblical temptation of like Eve taking the bite of the apple. Get it, folks? Do you get it?
You know what though? It was around this time that we got like a real high emphasis on the food pyramid. So I'm gonna say this is just encouraging kids to eat
This
fruits
is
and
Adrian
vegetables.
just doing a great job.
Stop drinking so much
this
milk.
This is the first PSA in this show.
Yeah.
But from here,
Also, like,
based
way
off-
to like slut shame a 15-year-old. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
this-
Unfortunately, that's not going to be the last time that
No,
happens in this
not at
pilot.
all. Not at
I
all.
can't. How many episodes of the show did like?
We'll
have
get to
exist?
Legacy. We'll get to
we
Legacy.
are going to get to it. But let's talk a little bit about Ben and Mr. Molina a little bit. Ben goes because he knows Amy's in the band. He wants to win this sex bet. You know, that he
Time to
has-
go talk to an adult who's working for the school about this.
Some of the things that were said in this, there's one line that I just have written down. I'm 15, I'm a virgin, and if I ever want to have a sex life, I have to start somewhere. And that is just said straight to your guidance. I think he's a guidance counselor. And
Yeah.
I just was like, this scene just seems, it didn't need to be here, but also at the same time, it was just so gross. Like the entire time, I was just like, I don't need any of this.
Can we just also say Mr. Molina is like a horrendous guidance counselor? He like multiple violations of trust, multiple like instances of horrible advice. Like, I don't know why everyone treats him like a therapist. Everyone on the show needs therapy, and they also need to go see a friggin' doctor.
It's already so difficult to get into the UC school system after high school, and Mr. Molina's doing these kids no favors. Issues I have with Ben in this scene. One, I didn't get to play this part at 17.
I'm so sorry.
This should have been me. No one wanted to look at my tape. What the fuck? Second thing, Ben just assuming that he can easily learn to read sheet music. Shut the fuck up. Put in the work. Take a theory class. And also, am I wrong in that he wants to like join the band to impress Amy, to have sex with Amy, so that he can use that to try and have sex with Grace? Like,
Yeah.
isn't that what they imply in the
So
hallway
that's-
too?
Yeah, it's a
That is
trickle-down
part of it,
economics,
yeah.
a fantasy of the Christian
Okay,
right.
just because their parents believe in trickle-down economics doesn't mean these kids have to.
No, they
Second
do too.
episode where we talk about trickle-down economics. This is
When-
now an economics podcast.
Later on, when they all go to Prager University, this is
But like during
this is like a
this,
Pepperdine feeder program.
God, like it's just a wild thing. Like, and also I can see why he's like American Pie started the joke of like, oh, what happens at band camp?
That
what
is
happens at band camp? Right?
That is a nod to the American Pie movie, right? Like, it's not. I'm
don't
not
know,
crazy.
because like
Okay.
in this show, the only people who quote unquote fuck are the people in band. Because like Ricky's in band, Adrian's in band, Amy's in band.
Everyone wants a musician, baby.
Ben really wants to join band, so he wants to get in on that action as well. Jack's on the football team, but he has sex with Adrian, who's in the band. Spoiler alert. I'm sorry for everyone
anyone's-
who's listening.
If everyone's following along right now, they have like a Charlie Day like string of like who's trying to fuck, who has fucked, different color strings for each person who has actually like had sex. But everyone in this entire show has the worst relationship with sex that I've ever seen, including Mr. Molina. And really, I mean, we'll get to him in a second, but there's one character who actually has a decent relationship with it, and he's in the show for like maybe 30 seconds. It's really upsetting. But yeah, all people in the, like, all the parents, all the fucking students, everyone who works at this fucking school, they all have a horrible relationship to sex, and it makes me want to fucking tear the TV off the wall.
Now, if you think their relationship with sex is bad, wait till I tell you a little bit about their relationship with the concept of what happens as a result of sex and what your options are afterwards.
Yep.
Because Amy finds out after taking 3 pregnancy tests that she is indeed pregnant. Actually, this is the 4th one, technically. But her
the pot
2
roast one.
friends, we have the pot roast pregnancy test. But
What a great punk band name.
But after she takes it, I know 2008 does not seem that long ago, but it's 15 years ago. Wild enough to say that. But like the way this show approaches the concept of the options that you have once you are pregnant is just mind-blowing. And we made comments. The network that this is on, it's on ABC Family. You don't really have a series if the star of the show, and it's about her being pregnant, gets an abortion after she finds out she's pregnant.
Yeah, this network didn't get horny until they changed their name to Freeform. Then,
Well, then anything goes.
Yeah, then, all bets are off.
But, I was really upset by the way that the Lauren's character just instantly when Madison is Madison, the way she talked and the way she talked in this scene of scheming ways for Amy to find out if she's actually pregnant, by going to the doctor. I was like, oh, that's, teenagers are idiots. 15-year-olds, fucking morons. So this sounds like a 15-year-old. But then Lauren comes in as if she's been paid by the Koch family and is like, there's no such thing as abortion. Why would you even consider that as an option? You have to basically have this baby if you are pregnant. And it's just we'll talk about how ABC Family tried to handle this in a little bit, but this really just put me off on, I almost just shut off this pilot after that scene.
But you didn't. Let's keep going.
Yeah, I like I said, Jeff, everyone has a horrendous knowledge of sex, and the parents are extremely unhelpful. And for Molly Ringwald to have all the fame of getting very wealthy off of these teen sex romp comedies and stuff like that, all who have horrendous consent problems. And that's not her fault. She did not write the movie. She was a kid, she was a child actor. It's not her fault. But for this to kind of perpetuate itself and be this is the route of the people who learned about sex from John Hughes movies to now. It is it's truly upsetting to see the pipeline of misinformation on this.
Yeah. So Amy decides to go to the doctor's office. And
oh boy,
we talked about Avril Lavigne.
Uh-huh.
We get an even more on the nose song with John Mayer's and every bar mitzvah daughter daddy dance daughters.
Hasn't this man done enough?
This is I've dubbed this scene "Waiting Room for Squares."
Oh my god! This waiting room scene. I guess it's necessary, right? Because we have to see that she goes to the doctor to find out that she's pregnant. But
Except we don't see her actually go to the doctor. We just see her sit in a waiting room surrounded by the most 2-year-olds that have ever been in one place at one time. A woman literally just hands her a baby, just hey, hold this baby for me.
Yeah, you get them tossed around. It's like holding someone's holding someone's phone for a second while they reach for their keys.
No, I don't have any doctor friends as of this point in my life, but this really just highlighted the need.
You don't?
Sorry, I don't.
Wow, your Jewish parents are fuming.
But at this point, I'm sort of just thinking, wow, this really highlights the need for somewhere in between an adult doctor and a pediatrician, because being a 15-year-old in a room surrounded by 2-year-olds, And when the moment that Shailene Woodley is looking at that tiny chair thinking, I'm going to sit in that tiny chair, I was just like, please sit in the tiny chair. I need something to
I
happen
love
in this scene.
the symbolism or whatever of her being the last one in the room and looking back on the empty room before she enters the doctor's office.
Yeah, you know, you got to remember where you came from.
The waiting room.
The waiting room. But also, like, that is a weird time, right? Like, there is no set time where you stop going to a pediatrician. It just, like, kind of happens. You start going to, like, an adult, like, general practice doctor.
Mhm.
And the fact that she just had to go to a pediatrician anyways is, like, I don't know. It's pretty sad. I mean, this is around the time as well that, like, reality TV started glorifying Octomom and Teen
Mhm.
Mom and stuff like that. And it really
Johnny
does
K
have
plus
like a
8.
John K plus 8. Like, it is really, it had really negative effects on people who, like, were comfortable having children when they were young, because they're like, oh, you know, they could do it, and they got
Yeah.
a TV show. They got
Teen
famous
Mom
off of it.
premieres about 14 months to the date after this pilot.
Yeah, the executive producer Morgan J. Freeman. That Jay is doing some heavy lifting.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole, Richie.
So after this scene, we go to commercials. And then
That's Jeff secretly wishing we were going to credits.
Yeah, for Christ's sake.
Oh, I wish. A 20-minute show.
Okay, also, now, this is from us watching now 26 pilots, which is better than 21 pilots, which is the band.
Who's also Christian.
Who's also Christian. I have found that I can tell when a TV show is now going to be too long by how long they secure the music rights for each, like, sound bit. There's no reason we should have listened to half of Daughters and almost like 75% of Girlfriend. Like, there's no reason.
Dude, it's from the director of Pluto Nash. Like, lay off.
So let's talk about we get 2 family dinners. Both are equally upsetting family dinners, but we're gonna start off with the Jurgens family. And
why did you judge their name?
It's the Jurgens. It's the Jurgens.
It's the Jurgens. Hergens. But
Jurgens.
So there are 4 people in this scene. There's Amy and Ashley, who are both the daughters. Ashley is Amy's little sister. And then we also get Anne, played by Molly Ringwald, and we get George, the dad, who's played by Mark Derwin. Just spit.
Just get it out.
Where do I start?
Throw it down, baby.
George is the worst. George is the worst. Let's just say it.
George is
say
the
like
worst human being. George is not a good dad. Let's just let me get this off of my chest. The idea that you are basically, and very freely, I understand you have 2 young teenage daughters. The idea that you are shaming one of your daughters by saying boys only like nice girls. Your daughter got called into the principal's office because she was showing her belly button. I don't even want to talk about the skirt she was wearing, because that was a little bit more upsetting than seeing someone's belly button. Belly button pride, no shame for belly buttons, but like this entire thing of calling your daughter a streetwalker, and then
big time fuck this dad,
and then like, you're sexy, you're not sexy is something I know that was supposed to be a funny line, like, so that the parents watching this with their teenagers were like, oh yeah, George is the fucking man, but fuck George. And Molly Ringwald does nothing. She does nothing. She's sitting there as if she has emotionally been beaten to a pulp at dealing with this man. Rant's over, but I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are.
Oh my god, there is nothing worse than this attitude as a dad. This whole, like, bringing a shotgun to meet your daughter's, like, prom date and shit like that. It is, like, truly toxic behavior. Don't have a child if you think you have to protect them at every single moment of their life, and don't let them mature into adulthood.
Everything that he says to his 13-year-old daughter, talking about, like, the rules of good taste, you're not sexy. He does that weird skeezy guy laugh after he says that neither of you are ready to have sex, which is really disturbing too, where it's like, just him laughing at his own joke. The line, boys like nice girls, so why don't you start looking a little nicer and be a little nicer, just really it's gross. This dude is fucking gross. It's evident that this is not the first time that he's had this type of behavior at the table. It's not going to be the last. It's a really upsetting character amongst a pilot that's full of fairly unlikable characters already, to then get this guy's like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, this guy has TiVo'd Tucker Carlson energy like all day. This is an average Tucker Carlson viewer for sure.
It's just one of those things. There's very much a difference between being a protective parent and a parent who wants the best for your child and this sort of behavior. Like, there was the mention of, like, you might be married and then you might still not have sex sort of thing, and like him being super pumped about that concept. It's just like, you probably shouldn't be having
listen
kids,
just because this dude does not have a healthy sex life, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's one of those just wild things. And like, at the end of this dinner, where Amy's sort of sitting there being like, oh, well, I'm not I guess I'm not a nice girl because I'm pregnant, like, and you can tell Shailene Woodley's really trying to do that the entire time. Ben calls and asks her to this Christian after football game dance that they have at the church. But then we go immediately to a different family dinner at Grace Bowman's house. Now, talking about a family that looks picture perfect, John Schneider of Dukes of Hazzard fame,
Yes. Yes.
as well as where I know John Schneider more so from.
You know him from Smallville, right?
He's from Smallville, yeah, Clark Kent's dad, and like,
You friggin'
absolutely,
dork.
he is Daddy Kent for sure. And I will say it, John Schneider, I looked up how old he was, and he was 40, I think he was like 48 when he did this, and I looked
Yes,
at
he
Alex
was.
and I said, if I look this good at 48, I'm doing great in my life. But then he opened his mouth and I said, I don't want to be anything like John Schneider at this point in time. The way that, like, this is
Them
one
Duke boys were not at it again.
the way that these families have conversations at dinner, where the entire focus of this dinner was like, oh, you know, it's all about being pure, and like, we trust Jack, we really do, but you're making a promise to us. And like, I think Grace's brother's name was it Tom? Who
Yeah,
was
Tom's the
at
older brother.
Yeah, Tom's the older brother. And Tom, like, all the credit to him, was sort of like, he's the only character who's sitting there just being like, what the fuck do you mean that she's wearing a ring and making a promise to you? Like, of course you don't trust Jack if you're making her wear this bullshit.
Yeah, no
Like,
kidding. Also, like, okay, Grace seems to be the only character that has displayed even one Christian value that's not chastity. And I don't understand why there's no other Christian values that have even come up except for chastity. Like, I know it's important to the plot, but they had 45 minutes to kill. There's literally nothing else.
It's just the pilot, man. We got to spend all this time with Mr. Molina. We got.
I will say, like, watching this show after just watching the Super Bowl and all of those Jesus Saves Us ads, I was just like, those people would eat this show up. Absolutely. They're really pumped about
Just
this.
a quick thing on here. So like, we've mentioned
The Christ year.
like the Christian stuff and like the after party stuff that we're going to talk about soon. Is it weird that they had a giant banner for a church sponsored post game dance like hanging up in a public school, that like there was like all this like church advertisement in the school?
Is
I
this
was
for
gonna
sure a
ask
public
you
school?
guys about that. Like, I
don't know.
I assume it is, right? Because like, I was thinking about this, like, yes, I went to a school that was predominantly there was a larger percentage of Jewish kids in that school than there are in most places in the world. But we had a lot of different
You also went to
diversity
George Soros High School?
but like,
He played every instrument in marching band and was the quarterback.
But while like watching this, I was just like, the show's inability, or whomever wrote this, as you talked about her, Max, like, the inability to show any form of diversity in background or after school activities other than you can be in the band, you can be on the football team, or you can be Christian. Those are your choices. You get 3 of them, pick one of the 3. Like, it it was just something that's
It's either Hail Marys or Hail Marys.
Oh, God damn it, Max.
Jesus.
So
Oh, damn it.
we have these two family dinners, and then we actually have an adult that allows for a productive conversation.
Hello.
In Ernie Hudson.
Who you gonna call?
Ernie Hudson's talking with Ricky, and like, I actually really thought this scene was great because Ricky is addicted to sex, and very much Ernie Hudson, his therapist, who's played by Ernie Hudson. It's not just Ernie Hudson playing Ernie Hudson, which I would kill for.
The character's name is Dr. Fields, but we could just keep calling him Ernie Hudson for
Ernie
the purpose
Hudson
of this podcast.
is just basically calls out Ricky as like, one very aggressive form of therapy, but I'm here for it. Of like, you're addicted to sex, and it's because of the trauma of your dad, and like gets Ricky to admit that he does have issues that are causing him to want to have sex, just like as much sex as he can possibly have. Go for it, Max.
Ernie Hudson gives the only grounded performance in this show.
Yeah.
Ernie Hudson is the only person who actually like read the script and spent time with it before he shot his scene. Now, granted, they didn't give him a costume. The dude's just wearing like a Henley and jeans, like with his feet up in his. But it's his office, it's his practice. He can do whatever he wants. But yeah, it's the only scene where there's like some nuance and some grounding. I think it's the only scene where we learn something about a character's behavior that has real given circumstances that like are applicable to why they are the way they are.
Yeah.
And it says more about like, what we're going to get from this as a whole, obviously knowing like Ricky's relationship with other main characters. But it's just mind-boggling that it takes us this long to get into this pilot before anyone actually like provides any subtlety whatsoever in an acting performance.
Yeah, and I particularly like the amount of backstory that they give Ricky's character too, because like up until this point, Ricky's just kind of an asshole, and he's very manipulative. He's not actually getting consent because it sounds like he's just wearing people down. But you do get an understanding of like what has triggered or like what has changed in his brain to make him value sex as a social currency or like a thing to get out of a relationship at any point. And it's unfortunately because he suffered from sexual assault from his dad, but it was it really was like one of the few real actual like you said, grounded. It's really based in reality. It's really based in logic, and he's an actually understanding person. Like, this is the amount of depth you should get from Mr. Molina's character too, and you just don't get it. And I don't know, Ernie Hudson, the only good part of this entire show. Stop listening right now. Just watch Ghostbusters.
So, a couple of things that happen after this scene is that we are brought to Adrian's house. And we find out that Jack is calling, and that apple, her biting into it, just a little bit too tempting to ignore.
Oh man, I thought the microwave beeps were going to be the most heavy-handed like transition in this show. I was wrong. It's when Jack calls Adrian and she's on the phone. You hear her go, "Yeah, that's still sex," and there's a cymbal crash, like a rim shot on the joke, and we hard cut to Ben practicing cymbals in his room. That is the most heavy-handed transition in the show. In a show that is funny. Full of them.
That is legitimately funny. That's the only funny moment of the show as well.
Yeah, and then from here we get to game day. It's Friday.
Woo!
And we see Jack leading the
California
huddle.
Forever.
Yeah. Jack leading the huddle and
clear eyes, full balls, can't lose.
I didn't think we could get more Christian faith based as far as a football show than Friday Night Lights, but Jack really gives us a run for our money by basically giving a sermon in the huddle and admitting to sin as much as possible and asking for forgiveness amongst his teammates, to which his football coach says, say something about winning and make it snappy. And rather than seeing a football game, we go immediately to the after party at the church gym.
Zero budget for football. Zero budget for maybe even a football.
Yeah, they have not had a documentary film crew tape a couple high school football games to use as B-roll. They have not done that.
So we have all this money that was put into Avril Lavigne's girlfriend.
The people that got paid most for this show are Avril Lavigne and John Mayer.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that because I think we ran out of money after playing Avril Lavigne's girlfriend, John Mayer's daughters, and then in this church gym, I don't know who this artist is, God bless them, but their music's playing in the background, and whoever did the closed captions did not care to say what the name of the song was.
As someone who went to a lot of youth group dances in, the fall of 2008, there's not nearly enough Lil Wayne's The Carter 3 playing at this dance.
Yeah, there's almost no Akon.
So
I haven't heard one T-Pain song.
So Ben and Amy are on this first date, and this scene, there's a lot that happens, but one thing that keeps on sticking out to me is there was food at this first date.
Which one of you wrote virgins eating beans in the show notes?
Who do you think wrote that? I wrote in mine, this virgin's eating beans.
But also, I have in mind that, and like the purpose of all this food was to show that like Amy's starting to feel like a little bit of nausea and like discomfort from the pregnancy. But
Grace
I just
said there would be food at the dance. She wasn't wrong.
Yeah, there's just a lot of beans.
I want to write a thesis on Ben's plate construction because not only is there a hot dog with beans on it, he just has a burger patty without any burger bun.
It's chili, right?
It.
Isn't it chili? I don't know.
I don't know, but
he's keto.
He literally is just putting everything on a plate, and I'm like, is there a one plate limit that like they were asked to only use one plate? Is he just trying to show that he has a big stomach? Like, there's just it was one of those things
when
where,
you try to impress your date on the first date by showing how much you can eat.
That's how we all met our partners, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's okay. So
Henry VIII over here.
Oh God. Okay,
go for it.
Yeah, this just proves my theory that white Christians don't know how to cook. Anyways, let's go back.
So, like, during this entire scene, there's a lot that happens, but one of the other things that stood out as just, like, the moral grayness of this show is Madison and Lauren are like, you have to go out with Ben so that he can, you guys can have sex, and then basically you can cuck him to make him think that he is the father of this baby. Which is just, like, going from, like, abortion is wrong to, like,
they're playing 3D chess over here.
To trick someone into thinking that they're the dad of your child is just insane.
Yeah, the only important reveal in this scene is Lauren and Madison realizing that Ricky is the guy who Amy had sex with, and then he comes in with an even worse plan than Madison and Lauren's, which is, hey, I need you to go dance with Grace's brother so I could go dance with Grace. Like, thanks for having sex with me, but now I need you to do me a favor so I can go have more sex.
Yeah, you know how teenagers work.
And, like, other things that happen in this scene, Ben and Mr. Molina are way too buddy-buddy.
Why is he there? Why is Mr. Molina at this?
You need one chaperone. You need one adult. But Mr. Molina has proved that he's barely an adult.
But we find out that Adrian and Jack have sex. Tom screams to alert everyone because you almost feel like Tom was like really looked up to Jack, this like all American looking dude who's 26 in high school and is the quarterback of the high school team because he's just much larger than everyone else. And while almost everyone at the church sees them, Amy and Ben are slow dancing to some music that's playing that is very nondescript.
Yeah, this is someone's like demo tape that was like they're the son of a Disney exec or something like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, they blew the entire budget and couldn't end it with John Mayer slow dancing in a burning room. But
Yeah.
So, Walt, anything else about this dance scene before we
Well,
talk about the true ending of this pilot?
yeah. Jack getting caught with Adrian, it was like, oh my god, scandal. But it
every
was
single person runs out to the hallway. Like the entire dance runs out to the hallway.
truly. There's also clearly only 12 people going to the school. Like, I don't think they even had money for extras because they gave so much money to Avril Lavigne. But they gave so much Canadian currency. What's Canadian dollars? Doubloons?
Toonies and loonies.
Too many loonies.
Too many loonies. Yeah, let's get into maybe the weirdest ending to a pilot that we've seen so far, and
So-
we might ever see.
So I was fully prepared for this, like, nice and gigantic air quotes ending of Ben and Amy amongst all of the chaos, just slow dancing like two actual teenagers.
Yeah, that's
you
actually
know?
a nice final
That-
frame for your
Doesn't
pilot.
that sound nice? But, like, not only did I get to watch Shailene Woodley give a PSA on how to talk about sex with your teens, how to talk about your sex with your parents, but Max, you got the pleasure of having someone else
You got a
talk
stage
through that with
performance.
you.
Oh my god, I watched this pilot with my wife who somehow knew every single word of this PSA, and afterwards the look of pure shock on her face that she did not realize that this was like buried so deep in her brain from 2008. She like was like, where, like, oh my god, where did that come from? How do I know this? But yeah, it was
this
like
is her
just
Manchurian
drilled
candidate
into there.
moment.
Yeah, like this like woke her from like her sleeper agent.
Yeah, this is like how when I listen to like classic rock stations and I know every word to every song, it's like truly alarming how all of that has been retained. Good for Mary Kate for remembering word for word, for being off book for this, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Like-
gave a better reading than Shailene Woodley did.
Well, you know what?
I fully understand that ABC was probably like, oh, we sort of have to like pretend that we're giving resources after this show that sort of spits in the idea of like the face of, oh, we're a very pure network.
Yeah.
We show Seventh Heaven and like Kyle XY and like shows like that.
Never heard of that.
Oh boy, we're gonna talk about it in a little bit, Rich. The guy has talk about a guy who can't be a streetwalker because he has no belly button because he's an alien.
All right.
Or whatever, as my wife just said in the background, he is not an alien. So
Just merely someone who did not have an umbilical cord in the womb.
yeah.
Special guests this week, our wives.
But yeah, it just seemed like I understand why it was a part of this pilot. At the same time, the idea that Hulu was like, we got to show the PSA at the end of this
I think that-
episode is also amazing.
I think that might have been legal. I think that might have been for legal purposes because, like, you know, there's certain laws around like teaching sex ed in general, and if they're kind of only talking about abstinence only sex education here, then I think they might have legally had to do
Oh,
this.
like they have to give you like resource information, like if you want to learn more, if you want to get another side to it.
Yeah.
Is that just a pilot thing, or is that an every single episode thing? Do we know?
I think that's in every single episode.
Yeah,
sort of
there's no
thing.
way
Like,
MK knows
it's
all
sort of
that
like-
without just from the pilot.
it's either if that is on the I thought you were talking about like giving guidance. I think that's like you have to sort of at the end of an episode of something, but like sort of like when you hear the suicide prevention hotline after a character tries or commits suicide.
Yeah.
But that's
Or
where we
anti-smoking
end our,
PSA after
yeah.
Mad Men.
that's where we end our pilot. Is there anything we loved about this pilot that
Ernie
you guys would
Hudson.
like to talk
Just
about?
Ernie Hudson.
Yep, watch Ghostbusters. What about wait a minute moments?
God, there's another like just heavy-handed directing choice that I skipped over because we spent so much time in that goddamn hallway. But it's like after we meet all the teens, there's like a zoom out shot on Amy, and like the camera starts to turn. It's kind of like to show that her worldview is like becoming skewed.
Ugh.
No, this is like 0 for 10 across the board with acting performances. It is mind-boggling. it just goes to show like how essential good writing is, because like literally like 2 years later, whatever, when she's in The Descendants, that movie is winning an Oscar for screenplay. She's getting a Golden Globe nomination. She's like really good in it legitimately, and she's so flat in this. And it's not like she had that much time to like completely overhaul her acting style. It's just it's a mind-boggling script. The performances are trash. Why is that kid eating so many beans?
Now, this is look at me, Hollywood. Look, get closer. Look at me. This is what happens when you have no Jews in your writing room. Do you see what happens? Do you see what happens, Hollywood, when you have no Jews in your writing room? What about you, Jeff? What was your wait a minute?
And Ben's last name is Boykovich. Like there's a bunch of Catholics writing this kid Boykovich, and they don't know what to do with him.
Yeah, you can tell there's no Jews because they spelled it with a W. What a Boykovich. What about you, Jeff?
So, Max, I was going to say, like, not only one of the ways, because I have to make this nerdy, one of the ways that I know Shailene Woodley is also because she very famously was fired from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 for being Mary Jane Watson to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. She tested so poorly, they were just like, "Ooh, let's get rid of these scenes." Mm-hmm. So made me think like, oh, we're just so blessed to have Zendaya.
This is also our
second
our second pilot that features Shailene Woodley. Shout out to the OC.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And you could tell she did zero growth as far as an actress. I
was gonna say she's taller.
Yeah. But I spoke a little bit about the things that were, wait a minute, to me. This entire pilot needs to be thrown in the garbage and lit on fire.
Good God.
But I do, gentlemen, we have an in-flight question.
Great.
Our in-flight question came to us via Instagram. Make sure to be on the lookout. We ask for them almost every week. But this in-flight question was, who is the biggest daddy on this show?
Now, Rich, as our Gen Z host, could you please break down the definition of daddy for our listeners?
Here's some qualities of daddy. Being an authority figure a little bit. I think there's an aspect to that. I think someone who will choke you, but will understand not to put pressure on your windpipe.
Welcome to our new audience. Thank you, algorithm.
Yeah, Spotify, listen up. I'm saying I'm someone who will pick you up in their car, will take you out for a great dinner, good time, is a great conversationalist, but knows how to choke you without hurting your windpipe. I think that's the only definition.
And in general is usually a older gentleman. Just
slightly
at it as well, like slightly. We're talking. Yeah. Let's just put at least in your 40s. So I will say, I'll start us off. Before John Schneider's character opened his mouth, I was like instantly like, oh, biggest daddy of the show, 100%. As soon as he started talking about purity rings, I was drier than the Sahara Desert. And then Ernie Hudson came on screen, and I was just like, Ernie, damn, you're looking good. Any guesses how old Ernie Hudson was in this pilot?
Ooh. I'm gonna go 52.
Max?
I would say that he's 60.
Wow, Jeff's game of the week.
62 years old.
Oh,
Ernie Hudson was 62.
Damn, he looks so good.
And he looks fantastic. And I was just like, damn, Ernie.
Also, if you go on his IMDb photo, he's got some fucking pythons. That dude has been doing nothing but hitting the gym since Ghostbusters. Yeah.
So, you know what, Ernie Hudson? You're my daddy of the pilot. Congratulations. That might become a new thing that we are doing in this podcast. Max, what about you?
Had he been in the pilot, it would have hands down been Steve Sharippa, who I looked up, and his character, who's in almost every single episode from here on out, is described as the wealthy owner of a sausage business, which has earned him the nickname of the Sausage King.
Oh, my dude.
Obviously, Steve Sharippa would have been the biggest daddy had he been in this pilot.
Also, physically biggest daddy.
But we gotta give it to Ernie Hudson. He's the only person who speaks with even a little bit of decorum and like poise and wisdom. He's got like this like casual lean, with his feet up in the doctor's office. Like he's so easygoing. Like you know this guy's gonna like listen to you and he's gonna treat you well. Most of the men in this show are absolute trash, so I got to give it to Ernie Hudson.
And Rich.
Yeah, so what you want to do to not damage the person's windpipe is you want to apply pressure around the sides of their neck instead of because the natural inclination when you're trying to choke someone is you put your thumbs or put some pressure on their windpipe. That's not how you're supposed to do it. That's how you end up injuring someone. It's Ernie Hudson. It's obviously Ernie Hudson.
At this moment, I would just like to say we're recording this on my mom's birthday. Happy
Great.
birthday, Mom!
Happy birthday, Mrs. Kerbis. Oh my God.
But Rich, thank you so much. And
yeah, you're so welcome.
For our viewers and listeners, thank you so much for that question of the week. Ernie Hudson, congratulations. Another Sterling Award win that you add
we could,
to...
You know what? We can just continue on Biggest Daddy question every week, and it will just continuously be Ernie Hudson.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the legacy of this show, shall we? So this show had 5 seasons and 121 episodes associated with it. Now, interesting thing about the pilot is the pilot was actually the highest rated debut on ABC Family to
beating out 3 other shows before it turned into something else.
Talking about Kyle XY, it beat out Kyle XY as the most... with 2.82 million viewers on a cable show, which really not that bad.
I was going to say, for like a family-oriented cable network, that's actually a pretty high draw.
Yeah.
I think the only thing I've ever watched ABC Family for is reruns of That 70s Show. I think that's what the entire network was based on.
Another interesting, 2 other viewership things. The ratings peaked in season 3 with 3.74 million viewers per episode. Also pretty impressive. Also the finale of the first season beat out Gossip Girls as far as more viewers. It which had less than half
Kyle XOXO
viewership. Because everyone was like, I gotta watch the season finale of Secret Life of an American Teenager.
Sure.
So the show also spawned a book entitled The Secret Diary of Ashley Juergens. So about the sister. There are DVDs for the first, I believe, 3 seasons, but 4 and 5, there are not DVDs available to purchase, so good luck finding those episodes if you're more of a hard media person. The show was nominated for 34 awards and won 4 of them. 2 of them were Teen Choice Awards, and 2 of them were Gracie Allen Awards. I'm
laughing so hard at these Teen Choice Awards, like Choice Summer TV Star, Male, Choice TV Actor, Drama, Choice TV Parental Unit.
The summer category of the TV show aspect of it reminds me of the daytime
the daytime
Tony joke from Mulaney.
Well, it's sort of like, I think that for the summer episodes, it's them or American Ninja Warrior. That's the only 2 things that are on during the middle of the summer.
I can't believe American Ninja Warrior didn't win.
This pilot also won the Bush's Baked Beans Award for Outstanding Portrayal by Beans.
They got a golden retriever.
All right. So, Rich, that is our legacy, but I know you usually bring a game of the week.
Yeah.
This week, I just see Rich's PSA of the week. So, Rich, up to you.
Floor's yours.
Okay. Abstinence-only sex education shouldn't exist. There is nothing practical about teaching kids that the only way to have sex safely, while their bodies are telling them to fuck constantly. Jeff's running away during this. While the only thing that their body is telling them to do is fuck constantly and reproduce, because it's the only thing that our bodies have told us to do at this particular age for the entire existence of humanity. Abstinence-only sex education ignores a lot of questions that kids will have about safety, We'll have about actually like the actual experience of sex, the repercussions of sex, and I don't know. This show is it seems to be made for people who have experienced abstinence-only sex education. And what I am pleading for you all to do, and I've actually had a number of people reach out in my DM saying that they have learned a lot about sex education from this show. That's not where you're supposed to be fucking learning sex education from. Get practical sex education knowledge. Write your congressperson to not allow abstinence-only sex education, even at Christian schools. It is extremely dangerous, and you do not want your children having bad information about something that could potentially result in the birth of a human being. That is my PSA. I'm very angry about this show. I really wish it didn't exist, and I really wish the people who learned stuff from it got better education in fucking school. It's really upsetting. Anyways, back to you, Jeff.
Thanks so much
That's
Rich.
That's my least fun game of the week.
Most important.
There will be no
probably,
games
though.
for you today, Molly Ringwald.
Well, with that being said, as our plane is starting to come to a land, 2 questions for you, gentlemen. Do you think this show could be made today? And what are you going to watch instead of watching more of this show?
Yeah, absolutely not. There's obviously going to be teen dramas that are constantly made. Freeform has successful runs with shows like Grownish and Good Trouble. HBO Max has had revivals of Gossip Girl and Pretty Little Liars. Ginny and Georgia on Netflix is allegedly one of the most popular shows on all of television right now. This could absolutely not, though. Those shows feel like they have any bit more teeth to it. I will not continue to keep watching this, even for my king, Steve Sharippa.
Rich, what about you?
Unfortunately, I think this show probably could be made today because Christians just do whatever the fuck they want all the time and ignore better information and think that they just control the media anyways, when that's our job, famously.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Boy,
it'll probably
right.
It can absolutely be made today. I'm really not looking forward to the next time Christians try to pull this bullshit again. So cut that shit out. You're endangering the lives of children by making shows like this. Stop it.
I could very easily see a few networks picking this up. If someone was like, we're gonna redo it, which is unfortunate. I'll leave it at that. Throw this in the trash can and burn it alive.
Yeah, I'm shocked that this doesn't exist on Fox, like some Fox streaming.
If I
network
was in this
offshoot
show,
right now.
I would ask for it to be taken off of my resume as an actor. I will just say that much. With that being said, as our plane is coming to a land, where can we find you, gentlemen?
You can find me getting really mad at Molly Ringwald and the entire fucking cast of this again. And you can also find me on Instagram at Damn That's Rich.
You can find me in the gym eating beans and on all things social media at Maxwell Sing. You can also find original sketch comedy from myself and Rich Inman over on TikTok at Dadwagon Comedy.
You can find me writing my latest post about why Ernie Hudson is a daddy on Facebook, but you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at RunJeffRun. You can find TV Pilot's License on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Pilot's License. If you have a question about the show or for our next episode, shoot us an email at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com or give us a call at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for our Instagram for a sneak preview of some of our upcoming episodes. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. And until then, have a nice day.
ABC family.